Hello, Mr. Wright. So nice to meet you. At the age of 88, you've had quite an eventful life, haven't you? Portrait artist, magazine, illustrator, a life model, a writer. You've mixed with the famous and the infamous. You also went to prison in 1962 for a year. What was that all about?
Well, in the 1960s, it was illegal to pose for frontal nudes. And I was persuaded by my boyfriend to do so because he was out to make some money at that time. And I thought, really, it wasn't too bad. I had a QC who said not to worry. I wouldn't get a custodial sentence. However, at that time, as I say, there was a witch hunt going on with gay people, and a notoriously homophobic judge took the case, and I was sentenced to a year in Wormwood Scrubs. What was so unjust about it was the fact that my partner, who was bisexual, posed for exactly the same kind of photographs, yet just because he was a father and had produced 2 children, he only got half the sentence.
How did your family react to your going to prison?
They were extremely good. I was very lucky. They supported me to the utmost. They were very good indeed. I don't know what I would have done without them.
When in your life would you say you were the happiest?
Oh, definitely the 10 years when I was a life model. I really did love that 10 years.
I believe when you retired from modelling, you had to cancel 4 years of advance bookings.
Yes, that's true.
What made you so popular?
The fact that I was a dedicated model, I loved sex, and I had a big cock.
Well, goodness me. What do you attribute your generous endowment?
Well, when I was young, my family were very poor and they couldn't afford to buy me any toys.
Did you ever meet Quentin Crisp? I believe he was a life model too, wasn't he?
Oh yes, he was. We were always bumping into one another because we travelled around the same art circuit, so it was inevitable. But we didn't like each other. We didn't get on at all, I'm afraid.
You didn't mention him in your book.
He didn't mention me in his. What did you think of mine?
I thought it was a terrific book. Just needed a complete rewrite.
I'll do all the jokes if you don't mind.
Oh.
When I need your opinion, I'll ask for it, thank you.
In your latest autobiography, you mention having a 4-year intense relationship with a young man who later became a notorious gangster and London's crime boss. Did he have a police record when you knew him, during your friendship with him?
Yes, his family were very respectable, but unknown to them, he was doing a little bit of criminal activity, I'm afraid, in the background. He actually wanted to rob the menswear shop where I was working at the time. But when I put a stop to it and said, no, I'm not having you doing that, he robbed the shop opposite.
Oh.
And the police actually held up, as he drove away in the van with all the stuff in, they held the shop up in the manger road to let the van come out. He told me this afterwards and they roared with laughter.
You're bisexual. Was your friendship with him a sexual one?
It was a sexual one for the first year, but he wasn't gay or bisexual. I think he was very heterosexual, but he was curious. He was curious about my sexuality, and it intrigued him, so I think he was experimenting for a year. I think we've talked enough about Roy, if you don't mind. We should change the subject. Virginia.
I believe in the 1950s and 60s you had a reputation for your erotic gay artwork, and it's housed in the London School of Economics.
Actually, the archive was housed in the London School of Economics, but last year it was removed, transferred to the Hertford Museum, where they had an exhibition of my work, mostly gay erotica, because I had worked on with a group of magazines, both British and American. At one time, I was second only in popularity to Tom of Finland, and had work selling to 36 different countries around the world.
What brought your career in erotic gay art to an end?
I'm going to prison, I'm afraid. The people just wouldn't touch me with a 10-foot pole after that. I had a police record and they were worried.
Oh.
The only people really who were broad-minded enough, didn't worry about the fact that I'd been to prison, I knew, would be artists and sculptors. I don't know really why people were so worried about nudity in those days. To me, there is nothing wrong with the human form being naked.
You said earlier that the 10 years you spent as a life model were the happiest in your life. Did you have any embarrassing or amusing moments during that time?
Oh, I had quite a few actually. One particular amusing one was when I went to Camberwell Art School in South London, and they had a particularly prudish teacher there, and he always insisted that his male models wear a G-string. Well, I always posed stark naked, so I didn't have one with me. And he said to me, well, haven't you got a handkerchief and a piece of string or something, and you can improvise? And not having a spare handkerchief or a piece of string, I thought, what on earth am I going to do? Then I thought, I know. I went back to my dressing room, rolled down the top of one of my socks, walked out into the class wearing that, hoping, of course, that it wouldn't drop off. The students all roared with laughter, and the teacher was so nonplussed. He just accepted the situation.
I suppose one question everybody wants to ask you is, did you ever get an erection during your posing sessions?
Well, I tried hard not to, but of course, I mean, there are those times when you just can't help it. When I did, the students were rather amused, and with professional artists and sculptors, there were times when they actually asked me to do so.
Did private artists and photographers ever wish to have sex with you?
There is a fine line, of course, between art and sex. And it was so nice to wake up sometimes in the morning feeling a new man, even a new woman.
In all your nude photos, you have such a lovely suntan and a sheen on your skin. Did you make use of a sun lamp?
Yes, I always used oil before every posing session, partly to give definition to the muscles, and partly in the wintertime to keep warm.
Did the photographers and artists ever suggest that they apply the oil?
Oh, yes, sometimes, and when they did, we didn't get much work done.
Oh. 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 I believe once you had to pose for a wax effigy of Rudolph Nureyev, the ballet dancer, which was put in Madame Tussauds.
Yes, I did actually. I posed for the neck down. He would only pose for the head. This was due to some spiritual belief that he had. I think he believed that his spirit would leave his own body and go and live in the effigy. So actually I got the job of posing for his body because our measurements at the time were very similar. So I did just step into his tights, you could say.
Are there any favourite pieces of sculpture you've posed for that you're particularly proud of?
Yes, there are several actually. A lovely figure of Christ, not on a cross, but ascending up to heaven on a ball of fire, which was done by Uli Nimch, the great Austrian sculptor. A figure of Hercules, which was done by a young sculptor called Edwin Russell, who is quite well known now. And best of all, as Bellerophon, sitting upon the back of Pegasus, the mythical flying horse. Wonderful piece of work done by Lorne McKean.
As well as your erotic art and your modelling, you also did a lot of portraiture for movie stars. How did that come about?
It happened, strangely enough, when I was in the army, of all places. I'd been scripting into the army for 2 years to do what used to be called national service. And the officer in command of the unit where I was in Manchester was a man called Lieutenant Colonel Herbert Buckmaster. He was well known as founding Buck's Club in London and also for creating the famous beverage Buck's Fizz. But he'd also been married to actress Gladys Cooper, and through her he had got to know many people in the theatre world, and whenever well-known stars came to Manchester to try out their shows and stayed at the hotel, he would invite them into his suite for a drink. When he discovered that I was pretty good at doing portraiture, he said, to earn yourself a little extra money, because army pay isn't much, would you like to come along to my suite? I'm inviting such and such a person in, and perhaps you could do a sketch of them and earn yourself a few extra bob. There was a whole string of them, about 24 I met, one after the other. Vivian Leigh, Glynis Johns, Valerie Hobson, Anna Neagle, Michael Wilding, even Laurel and Hardy.
You also met the legendary Mae West. What was she like?
Oh, she was great. Really was. The ultimate female impersonator. She was very small, short, a little bit on the tubby side, but boy, had she got sex appeal. Oh, I met her at the Midland Hotel, of course, first of all. Then she invited me to come up and see me sometime, a famous catchphrase, and I sketched her backstage at the Palace Theatre where she was appearing in Diamond Lil. What a character that woman was, though. She used to drive around the city in a bulletproof car with a chauffeur and 3 bodyguards, all ex-boxers. May loved men with muscles. She was famous, of course, for her sexual innuendos like, did you say you were 6'7"? Never mind the 6 feet. Let's just talk about the 7 inches.
You also met Marlene Dietrich.
I met Marlene about 4 times, I think. On one occasion with Burt Bacharach, who was, of course, her musical director for some years.
Was she really as aloof as she appeared to be on the screen?
Not really. She just treated everybody, she ignored everybody equally.
Do you think many movie stars have facelifts?
Well, if Joan Collins has just one more, she'll be wearing a beard.
Was there ever a star that you would like to have met but never did?
Oh, definitely Tallulah Bankhead. A great character. Like a vampire, she slept all day and only went out at night. But she was very witty, and she once said, when she was very angry, something that Bette Davis had said to upset her, when I see that hag, I'll tear every hair out of her moustache.
For a gay man, you have quite a respect for women, haven't you?
Well, my mother was one.
Which gender do you really prefer to have sex with?
Actually, I swing both ways. Bisexuals do have the most fun, you know.
Changing the subject, Mr. Wright, I believe you have a passion for cats.
Oh yes, I love them. I used to have 8 of my own, and I used to feed 32 feral cats in a timber yard not far from where I lived. Today I've only got the one.
If you could have your life again, would Would you make many changes?
I'd make a few, but probably I'd make all the same mistakes all over again.
You still do quite a lot of travelling about, don't you?
Not as much as I used to. I'm afraid my leg gets a bit stiff now. In fact, it's the only part of me that does these days. I bet you were a pretty little thing when you were young. I could still chase you round the block a few times now.
Well, when I was young, people did say my face could have been my fortune.
When did you go bankrupt?
What would you say was the greatest change that has taken place in society during your lifetime, Mr. Wright?
I think probably, it's wonderful that homosexuality is accepted these days, but I think the greatest change is probably gay marriage. It seems to me these days gay people are the only people that want to get married. Most heterosexual couples don't bother.
Now that you're older, Mr. Wright, are you still a party goer?
Oh yes, I get out as often as I can. Only recently I went to a party, a charity do actually, where there were various celebrities, pop stars and people like that, and we went to a fabulous bar just before the party began even, and it had all these wonderful animal heads all around the walls, and it was such an exciting place. And I love that sort of thing, something different, something unusual.
Just one final question. At the age of 88, do you still have any further ambitions you wish to achieve?
Yes, I'd like to reach 89.
Well, I sincerely hope you will, Mr. Wright. And in fact, I hope you go on a great many years beyond that. And thank you so much for talking to me so honestly today.
Well, thank you, Virginia. Or did I not say enough of the vagina?
Thank you.